You've arrived in Rome, ready to see the sights, enjoy the food and culture, and learn about the history of the Eternal City. But Rome is overwhelming, even if you love history, maybe especially if you love history.
Everywhere you look, there's another ruin, another statue, another layer of civilization, built atop the last. It's practically an outdoor museum. It's a city where the ancient coexists with the modern, where emperors and apostles still cast long shadows over the streets. But before you go, it helps to know the stories behind what you're seeing. Not just facts or timelines or the names of buildings, but the legacy of a city that shaped the world we live in today.
This isn't a tour per se, and it's by no means comprehensive, as you could spend a lifetime visiting and studying Rome and still only touch the surface of what there is to see and to learn about this city that's lasted nearly 3 millennia. These are just a few of the stories that I find fascinating at some of the city's most famous sites, the ones that will give context to what you're looking at and bring to life these remarkable ruins. Andiamo. What started off as a small Italian city-state amidst 7 hills in the 8th century BC would one day come to become the most powerful city in the Western world.
Over the course of a millennia, it built an empire that stretched from Britain to Mesopotamia, and at its peak, it was home to over 1 million people, making it the largest city on Earth at the time. And its legacy lasts not just in the ruins we see, but in the rituals we practice, the words we speak, the governments we've formed, and much more. But to understand how it all began, we have to go back to the earliest myths of the city itself.
This is where it all began, the legendary birthplace of Rome, the Palatine Hill.
According to mythology, at the base of the hill is where Romulus and Remus were nursed by a she-wolf in a cave known as the Lupercal. Romulus would go on to found the city in 753 BC, choosing the Palatine as its location, and according to myth, kill his brother in a dispute over where the city should stand. It was a violent beginning, perhaps fitting for what Rome would later become.
The Palatine became Rome's most exclusive address, the Beverly Hills of ancient Rome, home to the city's most wealthy elite.
Later, Augustus himself would build his palace here, beginning a tradition that would give us the word palace, from Palatium in Latin. From mythology to empire, it got its start right here. From the mythic cradle here on the Palatine Hill of Romulus' city, we're now going to head down and cross the Forum to climb the neighboring hill, which became the spiritual center of ancient Rome. Just across from the Palatine rises the Capitoline Hill, smaller in size but immense in symbolism, as this was the spiritual and civic heart of the Republic. It was here where the temple of Jupiter Optimus Maximus stood, Rome's chief deity, and the foundations of that temple can still be seen today within the Capitoline Museum.
These are the walls of the once great temple, and it's remarkable to see them here inside this lovely museum. Highly recommend coming and checking them out, especially to escape the afternoon heat. The hill was also home to the tabularium, which housed official records like military diplomas and the Roman citizenship rolls. Behind me, you can still see some of the original arches, which were incorporated into Michelangelo's design.
Here also stood the Temple of Juno Moneta, where Rome minted its coins, giving us the word for money. But moneta doesn't just mean money. It comes from the Latin word that means to warn. As it was here, during the Gallic sack of the city, that her sacred geese cried out in the night, alerting the Romans to the attack. But just below it lies the Tarpeian Rock, where traitors were thrown to their deaths. The Romans had a saying, "It's not far from the capital to the Tarpeian Rock." And the man who helped save Rome that night, Marcus Manlius Capitolinus, would later be cast from it himself, accused of reaching for too much power, a warning that in Rome, the fall could come just as quickly as the rise.
After the sack, the Romans nearly picked up and moved to the nearby city of Veii, but it was down in the Forum where the sacred cows laid down and stopped.
They turned their resolve to rebuilding under the leadership of Camillus, the second founder of Rome, and set to work creating a city that wouldn't see a foreign army do the same for nearly 800 years. And it was the Forum, at the base of the Capitoline, which was the space that connected it all, the stage where Roman life played out for centuries.
This is the Roman Forum, the heart of political and public life in ancient Rome.
For nearly a millennia, This was the beating heart of Rome. From the Republic through the Empire, triumphal processions, criminal trials, elections, debates, they all happened here.
The Via Sacra is the main artery through the Roman Forum, and you can just imagine as you walk down it the incredible grandeur of this location with temples, basilicas, and people from all walks of life across the Roman world, not ruins and tourists that we see today. It was the heart of the Roman Empire.
Among the ruins, you can still find the outlines of its most important buildings. The Curia, where the Senate met. The Rostra, where politicians gave their speeches. The Temple of Vestas, home to the sacred fire and the Vestal Virgins, guardians of Rome's purity. Over time, as the empire declined, the Forum fell into disuse. Floods buried its ruins, and medieval neighborhoods sprang up atop it. It wasn't until the modern era that archaeologists began to dig it out and reveal the ancient city beneath.
And one of my favorite sites that's been unearthed is a shrine to one of the most famous people that's ever lived. This is the site where Julius Caesar was cremated, and a place where Romans still leave flowers to this day. Not far from here on the Rostra, Mark Antony gave one of history's most famous speeches.
He held up Caesar's bloody toga, stirring the crowd into a frenzy against the assassins, men who had imagined they'd be hailed as liberators. Instead, the people turned on them, and the Republic spiraled into chaos. The age of emperors was about to begin.
It wasn't here in the Curia, however, the Roman Senate house, that the assassination actually took place, as it had been burnt down in the madness of the gang violence that occurred a few years prior to the outbreak of the Civil War. It was at the Curia of Pompey, just down the road, where the infamous event took place. Here in this square are the ruins of the sacred area of Largo di Argentina, and the site where Julius Caesar was murdered in 44 BC.
The Senate had been meeting in the Curia of the Theater of Pompey, a temporary location, while the regular Senate house was being repaired after being damaged in a series of riots. On the Ides of March, Caesar entered, unaware of the conspiracy.
It was here, behind temples B and C, where the conspirators executed their plot and stabbed Caesar 23 times.
Legend says he fell beneath the statue of Pompey, his former rival. Some say that the statue was the last thing Caesar saw. The very man he had defeated, now looming above as if in judgment. The conspirators believed they were saving Rome, but instead, they unwittingly tore the Republic apart. Civil war erupted, and the empire was about to be born.
This is my first time in this square, and it is an eerie place to be indeed. Of the many what-ifs in history, this is definitely up there amongst the top. What if Caesar hadn't gone that morning and had heeded his wife's warning from her nightmare? What if Caesar had invaded Parthia and Germania? What if Caesar had lived? How different would the world be?
The assassination of Julius Caesar wasn't just a single moment of political crisis. It was a symptom of something deeper. In the final decades of the Republic, violence had become the political norm. Assassinations, civil war, and mob manipulation became routine, a far cry from the orderly Republic Romans claimed to revere. Ironically, it was the Republic's success that helped set it on this path. A century before Caesar's death, Rome emerged victorious from some of the most consequential conflicts of the ancient world. Through the Punic Wars and its campaigns in Greece, Rome transformed itself from a regional power into the dominant force of the Mediterranean. The wealth, prestige, and influence that flowed into Rome reshaped the Republic forever, and an often overlooked reminder of that transformation still stands near the banks of the Tiber.
This is the oldest preserved marble building from ancient Rome, and it's the only surviving with Greek marble, the Temple of Heracles Victor. Although it's not on most tourist itineraries, it is a remarkable building, and not far from the Circus Maximus, just down the road here from the Capitoline Hill. And it's really important as this dates back to the 2nd century BC and was brought over after the defeat of Corinth in 146, the same year that Carthage was defeated. And it marks a pivotal turning point when Rome defeated two of its greatest rivals for supremacy in the Mediterranean and became the undisputed masters of the Mediterranean world.
But that journey to becoming master of the Mediterranean, Mare Nostrum, RC, stretched back to the earliest days of the city itself, when Rome was simply struggling to survive from its first generation to the next. It's a brutal tale, but it reflects a deeper truth. Rome was born in violence, and that thread would run through its politics, its myth, and eventually its entertainment.
This is the Circus Maximus, once the largest stadium in ancient Rome. But long before it was the famous stadium, however, it was the site of the infamous rape of the Sabine women.
According to legend, Romulus founded Rome with a band of exiles and fugitives, mostly men, and needed a way to populate his new city. It was here that Romulus staged games during a festival to lure local tribes, including the Sabines, over, only to have his men abduct their women during the festivities. This led to war between the Romans and the Sabines, and it was the plea of the Sabine women themselves that finally convinced both sides to come to terms.
In later centuries, the Circus Maximus became the epicenter of chariot racing in the ancient Roman world, drawing crowds of up to 250,000 spectators. The races were high-speed, dangerous, and deeply political.
Teams were organized by color, the reds, whites, greens, and blues, and fans formed loyal factions that could turn violent in the streets. Emperors used the races to gain favor with the masses, sponsoring lavish games to show their generosity or their dominance. This wasn't just entertainment, it was public theater, where the power and wealth of Rome played out in front of a screaming crowd.
As I'm walking up the Spina, which was the central access of the stadium, where the obelisk would have been in the center, you can just imagine the chariot races happening around you with the commotion, the dust, the cheering crowds sitting in the stadium. It must have just been an absolutely unbelievable sight, the ancient equivalent of Formula One racing. Today it is a remarkable park with an incredible view of the remains of the Palatine Hill behind us. Making my way out of the Circus Maximus, you can just imagine the emperors here at the top of the Palatine Hill watching the races out of their private boxes. The Circus Maximus was the heart of entertainment in the Roman world, but sadly, very little of the ruins remain today. So we're gonna head up the road to one of the most iconic monuments anywhere in the world that defines the Roman Empire in stone.
Next time, we'll venture into the Age of Emperors and explore some of the most iconic monuments of Imperial Rome, from the mighty Colosseum to the remarkable Pantheon and much more. And if you'd like to join us on future journeys in places like this and explore them with us in person, be sure to sign up to the mailing list below for future tours and updates. We'll see you in the next one.